Do you want to know how to make this delicious apple pie bar? In today's video, I'm going to show you how easy it is to make. Hi everyone, welcome back to my kitchen. It's been well over a year since the last time I put a video out on this channel. This fall I've been thinking that I need to just go through all my cookbooks and start making everything that I've printed off. And I also thought that it would be a great idea to share those recipes with you. So that's what I've been thinking of, just going through my recipe books and sharing my recipes with you. Some of the recipes are tried and true family favorites, other ones will be brand new. But today we are going to be making an apple pie bar. It is apple season here in Michigan. I love to bake with the fresh, crisp apples of the season, and they just taste so good this time of the year. This recipe is baked on a baking sheet, a large baking sheet, and it's cut into squares and eaten that way instead of the traditional pie. So first of all, I have to make the crust. It has to go in the refrigerator for a couple hours. The recipe says a couple hours. I typically will throw it in the freezer for maybe a half an hour while I'm making the filling, just to make it pliable. You want to keep everything cold so that it's a nice flaky crust. The recipe will be in the description or the show more box below this video. So let's get started. First we're going to need just all-purpose flour. This pie crust comes together really easily. I just use my hands for this. You don't need a mixer or anything, it's really easy. To that I'm going to add some sugar and some salt. We're going to whisk these together. We're going to try not making a mess today, because that's my goal. Alright, once everything is whisked together, you're going to add your butter. I have 3 sticks of butter that are really cold. They just came out of the refrigerator and then I cubed them into small pieces. We're going to add those, and then we're going to use our hands to try to break these pieces of butter into smaller chunks and incorporating it into the flour mixture. And I'm just mashing the butter between my fingers, trying to make them into smaller pieces without trying to melt or warm the butter at all. Now that I have the butter incorporated into the flour mixture, I have 3/4 cup of very cold water that we're just going to pour right into here. And I'm using a spatula for this part, and just kind of incorporate it with the spatula. It should start coming together to form a little ball. This might need a little bit more water. If it does, just put a little bit in at a time. You don't want too much. It's starting to just come together. You could form a little ball with it. It would be a very loose ball, but that's how we want it. We're going to divide this into 2 pieces. We're going to have a top crust and a bottom crust. The bottom crust is going to be a little bit bigger. One of the halves is a little bit larger than the other half. And then remember that the larger half will be our bottom crust. Okay, so I have my 2 very loose balls that I am going to wrap in some plastic wrap here. And I like to press it down, that way it cools a little bit faster. And we have to remember that this is my larger one. These 2 are going into my freezer until I have my filling prepared. While the crust is in the refrigerator cooling, I'm going to get the filling ready. Today I'm going to be using John Gold apples. I think John Gold are a really versatile apple. I like eating them fresh just like this, but they also hold up very well in baking. So if you're looking for an apple that doesn't turn into mush and it holds its shape really well, with a little bit of tartness, but not super tart, then try John Golds. They're really good. I have this apple peeler core thing, and I'm gonna peel my apples and cut them up. This is how I do all my apples pretty much. If I'm gonna make an apple pie or an apple crisp or anything, I make it into rings like this, and then, where'd my knife go? take my knife and then I just slice it down the side of the apple, and it makes them into separate rings like this, but also I just dice them up so then they're little pieces, and I do a like bite-sized piece. So I'm gonna do about 3.5 to 4 pounds of apples. With this peeler, I don't always get the very tops and bottoms of it, so sometimes it's left with a little bit of peel, but I'm okay with that. I don't feel like anybody ever notices, so I just leave it in the mix. So you're actually looking for about 10 cups of apple slices. So I'm going to finish up these apples and then I'll bring you back. Alright, we've got all the apples cut up and diced up into bite-sized pieces. So now we're going to add a splash of lemon juice to this mixture. And then I have about 3 tablespoons of cornstarch that I'm going to add to this. I'm going to mix this in. The cornstarch is what helps to thicken it because these apples are super juicy, and the cornstarch just helps make that apple pie filling more gooey and yummy and thicker than instead of just being runny and juicy. Set this aside a minute. In this bowl I have some white sugar, and in this bowl I have all my spices. So I have some cinnamon and nutmeg and allspice and a pinch of salt. I'm going to add all the spices right to the sugar. Take my little whisk here and stir them all together. They're all incorporated together and look like this. We're going to put it in the apple mixture and give it a stir again. Whoop. Okay, now that the apples are all mixed up and ready to go into the crust, I'm going to prepare the crust on our baking sheet. So I have a sheet pan here that I've covered with a piece of parchment paper, and we're going to put down the larger pie crusts on the bottom. So I find that it's a little bit hard to roll out when it's on the cookie sheet. So I know that this parchment paper is about the same size as the cookie sheet, so I'm going to take this off, and then I can easily roll it out a little bit easier. Now I'm going to take my rolling pin, and this is going to take a little bit of work because it's a stiff dough and it's cold. So it takes a little bit of work, but we're going to spread it all the way out. I've got the pie crust rolled out to the desired size. I'm going to flip this right over to my baking sheet here. I'm going to do the exact same thing with the other pie crust. Alright, I've got the top rolled out. I'm going to set that aside a second. Bring the bottom back. Add all the apples right to this, juice and all. So it should look like this. Now we're going to put the top crust over the filling. And I think what I'm going to do, set this aside, is to make sure it comes off the parchment, I may just roll it on my rolling pin because it might stick with some of that butter. That side. Now that we've got our crust on our rolling pin, we're just going to unroll it over the pie. There we go. And I did have a couple of tears here, which is fine. Now we're going to pinch the edges together. Now that I have it all assembled, I've got 1 egg. I'm going to make an egg wash just to brush over the top. This is going to give that top a nice beautiful golden glow. Next we're going to go through and just make a bunch of cuts, probably about inch and a half long throughout the whole thing to release that steam. Now it's ready to go into the oven. I have my oven preheating at 375 and it will bake for about 45 minutes or until when you put a knife or a fork in it, the apples feel done. The apple pie just came out of the oven and it smells amazing. I'm gonna let it cool and my family will have it for either afternoon snack with some ice cream or for dessert after supper meal. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you have an amazing day. Take care.